Hey there, Scoobies. I'm not usually one to talk about movie news. I'm not a pundit or a reviewer in the traditional sense, but, well, I suppose this time, being that it's Buffy related, I'll indulge. So, in case you missed it, or ignored it, or other, a recent report of a Buffy sequel being in the works has hit the internet. There have been stories and rumours about reboots for years, and Hollywood hate letting an IP go to waste. But what makes this latest news so enticing is the named talent including Buffy Summers herself, Sarah Michelle Gellar. Nora Zuckerman and Lila Zuckerman are writing the pilot, with Chloe Zhao attached to direct. Lila and Nora have writing credits on Suits, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and Poker Face to name a few, and their credits may not be long, but there is some prestige there. As for Chloe Zhao, she is credited as being an award-winning director, but if I'm being honest, the only thing that I've actually seen her in is Eternals, so we won't hold that against her. As for Gellar, she will be an executive producer according to Variety, and will have a recurring role on the show rather than being the protagonist. Now, whether you're excited for this sort of thing will fall down to your personal preferences. Firstly would be how you feel about revivals years after they've concluded, such as The X-Files or Dexter New Blood. I suppose the answer to this is usually, well, it depends on what they do. Is there a requirement? And are they doing it for the right reasons? With Dexter in mind, the original show ended, well, let's just say, not to everyone's satisfaction. So when the opportunity came around to right that wrong, I was all for it. But again, they didn't quite stick the landing. And so we continue. Now, let's talk about the elephant in the room. Joss Whedon, for obvious reasons, is not attached. No matter your personal feelings about the man, there is no denying that the success of the original series is due to his clear vision and the incredible writer's room. I'm not saying that Joss is the sole reason for the success, as there were many talented people involved, but he did keep a tight leash on his creation, ensuring a certain consistency and the reason that we got all the layers and depth that we did. So will this show under the new leadership team be able to meet the same heights? For me, the expectations are low. I feel Buffy wasn't just the product of a crazy genius, albeit an abusive one, at the height of his career. It was also a product of its time, created with the right intentions at a time where the freedom of expression was just restrictive enough that it fostered even more creativity. I mainly think of Tara and Willow's relationship. At the time, the idea of a same-sex relationship on screen was almost frowned upon, and the network was nervous of this. Now, what I'm going to say next feels kind of insane to say, but it ended up being a good thing. And no, I don't mean homophobia is a good thing. But it created challenges for the writers, directors, actors and crew that meant they had to work around it more. But I believe it was this subtlety and nuance that brought with it some of what made their relationship so iconic. Okay, so that was a little bit of a tangent, but what I'm getting at is that if you fast forward to today, and Hollywood is clamouring to throw representation down our throats and to show how progressive they all are, this isn't a problem in of itself, but I think that the adversity brought creativity, and a lack of the former will bring a lack of the latter. So yeah, if you want my honest opinion, I think they should leave Buffy in the past. It was amazing, obviously, and I love it, obviously. A continuation makes me nervous. I don't feel that the pieces are there to give us what we need. I don't have faith that the writers will be able to layer in deeper themes like the original series, or use characters as facets of the protagonist, or create allegories and hide heaps of foreshadowing. I just don't think the same level of passion for this universe can be levied without the original creatives heading it up. Okay, Joss is out, so you want me to get excited? Give me a Marty Noxon, Tim Minear, Jane Espenson, and then I may start to get excited. Anyway, enough of my negativity. So, let's assume for a moment that we were in the writer's room, figuring out what I want to do, how I'm going to revive this series. I have two thoughts on this, or rather, two opinions on this. So considering the theory on how Buffy will be used as a character, and the fact it's been around 20 years since the Season 7 finale, there are some interesting ideas that could be explored. The first and most obvious, New Slayer, with Buffy taking on the role of Watcher, guiding the new generation. Personally, I think it would be real cool to actually have Principal Wood for this role. Think about it, the son of a vampire slayer, a skilled fighter with a past, and not an obvious choice for Watcher. So what's DB Woodside up to right now? Picture this. A new Slayer doing her thing. You could open to a classic vampire kill. She saves a would-be victim while giving an inner monologue. It could be something about Slayer lore, until some girl before her time decided to break tradition, thought she was above it, and used some voodoo to unlock the potential in every young girl who had it. The girl thinks to herself, sounds good, right? But wrong. Let's just say nature abhors a vacuum. The vampire is revealed to be an uber-vamp. She fights and takes it out, but just barely. The protagonist approaches the edge of a cliff or a building or something. Sure, there was more than one Slayer, but now there's more of everything else. Reveal a destroyed landscape. Maybe it's New York or something similar. Okay, so I gave a basic intro. We could open up to a dystopian landscape where our protagonist is less a Slayer and more a survivor. She has the power, but the threat is tenfold from what it was in the BTVS days. Buffy is a myth, something her father tells her in bedtime stories, and her mum disappeared. She's nothing more than a deadbeat that left them years ago. The premise sets up a new world that goes against the optimistic view of the series finale. We can set up some questions like what happened to Buffy and Faith. Personally, I love the idea of focusing on Faith's daughter. One of the themes explored in Buffy was nature versus nurture, and a Slayer born of Faith and Principal would be a prime candidate. The other option would be an animated series, something along the lines of Vox Machina or Castlevania. Animating the show allows you to do something that you can't in live action. Well, not cheaply. And that's bring back the original cast. This also removes the requirement to set your show X amount of years later in the future. It could be a continuation from where we left off, or at any point in the future, as the original cast would be able to add their voice talents. This potentially brings back your vampire characters as well as the core Scoobies. You could even look to recreate the comics. The point is, I'm split on this. On the one hand, there could be some exciting ideas. On the other, it could just be another Hollywood cash grab. So, I suppose the end of this is, I just don't know. But I'm hopeful.